The pads on this side are a little low and they're showing normal signs of even wear. This side is clearly showing a taper. You can see on the top side of the left where it's really wide and narrow at the bottom, and it's the opposite on the other side. So something has clearly been going wrong here. This is that caliper bracket. You can see the slide here is moving in and out very freely, allowing it to float. But on this side, it is clearly stuck, and that's why it was getting the wear pattern it had. While we're waiting on the new calipers to show up, we're going to machine these rotors. The first step in the process is to clean the mating surfaces for the rotors. This is what will allow us to index them to the brake lathe. Here you can see the importance of having the mating surfaces cleaned, so that way it's indexed onto the machine correctly so it spins true. We begin by making an initial cut. Then we bring it out to the outer edge of the rotor and then back in. This sets us up to do automatic feeding. You can see here the rotor was pretty far off in parallelism. Each time the machine feeds it out, we have to turn it back in manually. We'll reset it to take off a couple more thousandths off of each side. Then we'll continue feeding it until the rotor is true on fast cuts. If you look to the inside portion of the rotor, you see that we're cutting 360 degrees all the way around. And once we get it to that point, all the way to the outside of the rotor, then we can do a slow final cut. You see we're clean here with the rotor. We just now need to do a slow fine cut on it before putting on the non-directional finish so that the pads can seat correctly. It's definitely feeding a lot slower than it was. The students are using pinch pliers to pinch the brake hoses before removing the calipers. The students are using an angle grinder with a gasket cleaner to put a non-directional finish on the rotors to help seat the new pads. With the trued rotors, the students get busy putting on the new calipers, brackets, and pads. A little bit of anti-seize will help the pads move as they should. With the new banjo bolt and copper washers to seal the line, it goes back onto the caliper and we're ready to bleed it. Once we get the air vacuumed out of the two front calipers, it's ready for a test drive. Putting a new alternator on this 2013 Denali, a bit of a chore. A lot had to come off of it, as you're about to see. And so now we're in the process of putting the new alternator in, and then again you'll see more of the process as it goes back together. This was a last-minute project that came in. There's not as much footage as I'd like to share, but to do this we had to remove the inner wheel well, we had to take the fuse box completely out of it along with this mount. The upper radiator hose had to be removed and the front engine mounts as well. With the time constraint, the Auto 2s and 3s did an excellent job of knocking this thing out in one day so the customer could have his vehicle back. And here the fuse box is going back into place. And the bulkhead connector bolts get tightened. At idle it doesn't sound too bad, but when you bring the RPMs up to about 2,000, that's where we get. Definitely in the top end. We're going to spend some time next week seeing if we can figure it out.
Doesn't matter if it's metal or plastic. Last one. Hit her off.
As you know, the team is already good, but the practices must continue.
Hit off.
Yes, get off.
I'm not there.
No.
Two is a one. put one. 10. On top of you, Joey. Dale.
We had a last-minute vehicle come in with the catalytic converter had fallen off of it, and we noticed that someone had cut the pipe and used exhaust tape just to tape the two pieces together, which clearly didn't work. So we put them in and welded them together. It was a little contaminated with all of the glue, but it worked out okay. And then on the other end, the clamps that they had used for the adapter was way too big, so it didn't quite hold, but we put it all back together, and at least it's a lot better than it was when it came in. A couple of other things we did notice about the vehicle is that this rotor here in the front right is down to the cooling fins, and this tie rod has definitely seen better days. Next time on Bulldog Builds, we'll have the valve cover off of that Nissan Rogue and see if we can figure out where the knocking noise was coming from. And both engine teams will be competing in Indianapolis for the Grand National title. We'll have some of the footage from that and let you know how they're doing. See you next week.